Let the trumpet sound. The Life of Martin Luther King, page 112. It was March 3rd, and King and Coretta were on an airplane bound for Ghana in West Africa. Ghana had recently won her independence from Great Britain, and Prime Minister Kwame Nkrumah had invited King and other American dignitaries to attend Independence Day ceremonies in Accra, Ghana's capital. On the trip over, King pondered the history of the world's, quote, black-skinned people, unquote. There were 1.5 billion of them, and how Europe had plundered and oppressed so many of them. But they were on the move now, everywhere, quote, in revolt against social and political domination, end quote. This was the spirit of the age, King thought, and he equated the struggles of the American Negro with the independence movement of dark-skinned folk in the world. In their own quest for full citizenship, Black Americans were part of a global movement to throw off racial oppression. The Kings reached Accra at night and stayed at a low stucco bungalow that belonged to an English professor and his wife. Here, servants brought King breakfast and tended his every need, bowing and speaking in obsequious tones like American slaves of old. Their servile attitude disturbed and depressed him. On March 5th, he assembled with representatives of 69 other nations in the square around the old British colonial building to witness the official birth of independent Ghana. At last, bells tolled midnight, and the flag of Ghana replaced the Union Jack as 50,000 people cheered wildly. On a wooden platform stood Nkrumah, a tall man in the bright robe of his Akan tribe, proclaiming Ghana free at last of colonial rule. At that, the crowd started chanting, "Freedom, freedom, freedom." And King was struck by the idea of a new Jerusalem descending from God, a new heaven and a new earth about to be born in this apocalyptic time.
The next morning, King came down with a virus which made him violently ill. For a time, he was certain he would die.
As he lay in the bungalow burning with fever, a celebrated Anglican clergyman named Michael Scott came for a visit. Dressed in flowing white robes, Scott knelt at King's bedside and prayed for his recovery. But sick as he was, King managed a dialogue with Scott. They both believed that Ghana was a model African state. Irrefutable proof that Africans could manage their affairs and run their governments regardless of what European imperialists claimed.
They also discussed apartheid in South Africa and compared it to the grim conditions in the American South.
Quote, "At bottom," King said, segregation in America and colonialism in Africa were based on the same thing, white supremacy and contempt for life.
A few days later, King felt well enough to dine with
Prime Minister Nkrumah, who had once been a student in the United States. King was one of his favorite Americans, he said, and the people who followed King in Montgomery had given him great hope. At last, it was time for the kings to go. Time to leave the memorable African land and return to Montgomery by way of Nigeria, Rome, Paris, Geneva, and London. In Nigeria, King was shocked at the universal suffering he saw. He never witnessed such squalor, not even in the rural American South. He talked angrily about the British exploitation of Africa, and he said he was glad that the sun no longer rose and set on the British Empire. In Rome, at St. Peter's Cathedral, he was so overcome by all the history it symbolized that he fell to the floor and prayed. Back in Montgomery,
King said his visit to Africa, the land of my father's father, was one of the most vivid experiences of his life. It was a non-violent rebirth, and from that time on, he remained passionately interested in African affairs. He did all he could to help educate African students in the United States. He served with Eleanor Roosevelt and John Gunther on the American Community on Africa and
amassed an impressive archive of clippings and magazine pieces about development there. At the time, he maintained a heavy correspondence with African leaders, among them Chief Albert Luhuli of South Africa, who witnessed abuse and persecution. King said, with a dignity
and calmness of spirit seldom paralleled in human history. As he studied that vast and complex content,
he surely realized that not all of Africa's woes could be ascribed to European imperialism. Nigeria, for example, had internal stresses and strains that derived from its three very different regions, and other small emerging states suffering from endemic ills as well. But King didn't discuss this, at least not in his writings. He focused mostly exclusively on the similarities between the American Negro movement and the Black Africans' own striving against white oppression. Quote, although we are separated by many miles, we are closer together in a mutual struggle for freedom and human brotherhood. End quote. We realize that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Therefore, we are concerned about the problems of Africa as we are about the problems of the United States. He understood what they were going through and how difficult it was to challenge the racial status quo. But in a final analysis, it is such a creative minority that saves history. But concerned though he was about Africa, he empathetically opposed many modern Back to Africa movements in the United States. When a Negro begged him to lead their people to Liberia or Ghana, King firmly replied, to have a mass return to Africa would merely be running from the problem and not facing it courageously. We are American citizens, and we deserve our rights in this nation. I feel that God has marvelous plans for this world and this nation, and we must have the faith to believe that one day these plans will materialize.
Bread mold, and then they coagulate and put it in the fridge, and then they coagulate and they slice it. You know, the jelly, you know the jelly.
Yeah, it's so
The gelatin, the bone marrow and all that, they coagulate and they literally just...
I remember in New York. Are you serious? Big up to Jara Safari, this family. Big up to this family. We got the Brooklyn Brown going on. We all got the mental memo, right? So the mental memo. We came through. It's Haitian Independence Day 2023. Right? Yes. They sound like Grenadians, sound like Haitians that got lost in Trinidad. It's really true. Then you hear
Yeah, I heard about that too. Huh?
Say that again. Grenadians sound like.
That wasn't me that said it.
Okay.
It should be the comedian.
Okay.
Canadians sound like Haitians that got lost in Trinidad.
They do.
That's true.
I don't hear that too much from the Trinis, but I always hear it from the Grenadians. Yes. And they were doing the lalos.
Yes.
And she didn't know it, but she watched the kids. And next thing you know, she started doing it. She was doing it better than them. People was throwing money at her. I was like, oh my God, they were the guys. Everybody was like, oh shoot, they was just throwing money at her. My nieces were like, you need to bring Khadijah here every week and take all the money. You need to do that. I was like, I am not gonna exploit my child for some dollars. But yeah, she's a dance all the time.
Yeah, it's in the blood.
Mexican Haitian.
She's a Grenadian Haitian.
Grenadian.
Her dad is Grenadian.
I was at a Labor Day party before I gave birth to my son. I know that's
The day
People are serious about this.
I was on an Indian boat ride doing the tassa with my belly. Yeah, and then the next morning I went into labor.
Haitian, Trinidadian, Haitians going on over here. Thank you. I've never met no Trini Haitians. I met Jamaican Haitians. I met Dominican Haitians. Talking about their Trini.
Juve going up.
Yes, let me tell you, I never missed my Juve.
From Flatbush, Juve was Juve again.
Yes. Remember when Juve used to be on Lincoln? She used to
fun.
play mass. I played mass before. She used to play mass. She used to play Kitty Carnival.
Yes.
So let me tell you, my mom was 9 months pregnant, Labor Day party.
She was on the parkway.
My mom never missed Labor Day. She's a Trini. She's like, she's Haitian, but she loves her soca. She loves her soca. She loves her soca. In the black. Oh my God. I just love it. You ever seen Grenadians doing Juve?
No.
They in tar, they in black, they on the heights. They look like devils with got the horns.
Jab culture is
Job. Let me tell you, the white people, they love to come to our carnival. When they go to Juve, they step back away from them. They're scary looking because they're in chains. It's like letting you know. It's a story about slavery, and we're out of it. You know, it's time to wine. No.
You're a
flag and all that. Nah, it wasn't time for reggae. Reggae is nice. It has its time, not during carnival time.
And its place and its
Yes, yes,
so
not during carnival. Yes, and parade.
Yes.
I love my mom. The first time she heard me play Santa Looking for a Wife, she's like, wait a minute. I thought you made that song. She didn't know parang, she knows soca.
So you know every year the parangs is different, right? They have some
Yeah,
parangs.
they got some on YouTube because I don't have the connects anymore.
Yeah.
Y'all let them, huh?
Santa looking for a wife. Santa looking for a wife.
Let's play a parang up to today.
Santa looking for a wife.
Up to today. Somebody know that song? What is that? Mr. Killer.
Mr. Killer. Oh my God, he started singing. Yo.
See, I have that mix with my dog. Because that's very talking.
Yeah, Jocelyn, that's in the split pea inside.
We're going to take us to the level of, routines is skill and stuff.
Yes.
But that golden and
Yes.
skill.
Yes. Yes. In years. Because since I've been
And you know what the great thing is?
Look, we got some brown on it. We're all from Brooklyn. And she made it happen. Yes, big up, Rastafari. The juke joint, and the No Stress Express. Black History Month, MLK Unity.
that I'm going at the hotel. The press.
Well, I was listening to this with the Black Eyed Peas. That goes Black Eyed Peas. Yeah, cornbread and Black Eyed Peas. Cornbread and Black Eyed Peas. There you go. Good. Oh, you put the spinners in here, huh?
Yeah, I want you like
Oh, yeah, that's right. I love it. I gotta get my appetite. I like corn pop.
We've got to stay together and maintain unity. You know, whenever Pharaoh wanted to prolong the period of slavery in Egypt, he had a favorite formula for doing. What was that? He kept the slaves fighting among themselves. Fighting among themselves. Slaves get together. We've got to stay together. The slaves get together. Stay together. We've got to stay together. Slaves get together. The slaves get together. That's the beginning of getting out of slavery.
If a white person assemble with Negroes for the purpose of instructing them to read or write, or if he associate with them in an unlawful assembly, he shall be confined in jail not exceeding 6 months and fined not exceeding $100.
If a white person assemble with Negroes for the purpose of instructing them to read and write, they will go to jail for 6 months, fine $100, which is about $7,000 today, even if you were a white person. This is code of law. 1849 didn't change until after the Civil War.
Don't you wait for love. Don't you wait for love, 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 love. We live in a economy. Pharaohs creating colonies that were made to last forever, forever, forever. Wait, mama, wait. Girl waited many moons. Promises made, promises unkept. Promises made, promises unkept. I love you till the night. I love you till the day.
I know who I am. I'm that girl. I'm that girl. I'm that girl. I know who I am.
Sometimes I shave my legs and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I comb my hair and sometimes I won't. Depending on how the wind blows, I might even change my tone. It really just depends on whatever feels good in my soul.
I am the rose of Sharon and the lilies of the valley. I know who I am. The rose of Sharon. I am the child of the Almighty King. He created me in His image. And the lilies, I walk with confidence. And the lilies, I hold my head up because
sometimes I shave my legs and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I comb my hair and sometimes I won't. Depending on how the wind blows, I might even change my tone. It really just depends on whatever feels good in my soul.
I am an African queen. I know I'm a strong black female warrior. I know my ancestors are still watching over me. I am an African queen. An African queen.
Sometimes I shave my legs and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I comb my hair and sometimes I won't. Depending on how the wind blows, I might even change my tone. It really just depends depends on whatever feels good in my soul. Sometimes I shave my legs and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I comb my hair and sometimes I won't. Depending on how the wind blows, I might even change my tone. It really just depends on whatever feels good in my soul. Sometimes I shave my legs and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I comb my hair and sometimes I won't. Depending on how the wind blows, I might even change my tone. It really just depends on whatever feels good in my soul.
We've got to stay together and maintain unity. You know, whenever Pharaoh wanted to prolong the period of slavery in Egypt, he had a favorite formula for doing. What was that? He kept the slaves fighting among themselves. Slaves get together.